Ronan Vale didn't hear the splash, he felt it. The sudden silence in the woods behind him, the change in the air, the way the birds stopped chirping. Then the scream. A child's scream. He dropped the bag of groceries right onto the dusty trail and sprinted toward the sound with everything he had. Help! My sister, she can't swim! Ronan barely registered the little boy on the riverbank, soaked to the knees, pointing frantically toward the water. Without hesitation, Ronan charged into the river, clothes and boots and all. The current was faster than it looked. His heart pounded as he spotted a small girl drifting near the middle of the river, her arms flailing weakly. She was maybe 5. No floaties. No adult in sight. He dove. The cold water hit him like a punch to the chest, but he powered forward. His muscles screamed as he reached her, grabbing her around the waist and yanking her toward his chest. I got you, he gasped against her soaked curls. You're okay. She coughed and clung to his shirt with tiny, shaking fingers. The second he touched land again, the little boy ran to them and hugged the girl tightly. Wella! You're okay. Ronan dropped to his knees, letting the girl sit up. She was coughing, but her color looked better now. Where's your mom or dad? He asked, looking between the twins. Wella, pale and trembling, pointed toward the trees. She was on the phone. She told us to wait. We just wanted to throw rocks. Ronan's jaw clenched. You can't be near the river without a grown-up. Ever. You hear me? They both nodded, eyes wide. He exhaled hard and stood. He was soaked through, his wallet ruined, and he was going to have to explain to his daughter why the peanut butter didn't make it home, but none of that mattered. The twins were alive. And then, Wella! Weston! The voice hit him like thunder. Ronan turned just as a woman burst through the trees, her heels catching in the grass, her designer coat flaring out behind her. She was panting, wild-eyed, and looked like she'd just run a mile in 5-inch heels. Mommy! Both twins cried out. The woman fell to her knees, grabbing them into her arms so fast she nearly knocked Willa backward again. Her hands moved through their hair, over their faces, checking every part of them. Oh my God, I was only gone for a second. A second. What happened? They went into the river, Ronan said, voice low. She almost drowned. Her head snapped toward him. Her eyes locked on his for the first time. Big, green, and full of panic and something else. Gratitude. Raw, aching gratitude. You saved her? Ronan nodded, wiping water off his face. Wasn't gonna let her drown. The woman stood, still holding Wella's hand. I don't know how to thank you, she said. My name's Elara. Elara Anderson. Ronan Vale. He looked down at the twins again. They should be all right, but you might want to get them checked just to be sure. I will. She stepped closer, hesitating. You're bleeding, she said, pointing to his palm. He hadn't even noticed the gash across his hand. Got caught on something. It's fine, he muttered. It's not fine. You should let me, I've got it. She quieted, watching him. I was just grabbing groceries, he said. I didn't expect to swim today. You're a single dad? She asked, noting his tone. He nodded, brushing hair out of his eyes. Yeah. My little girl's 8. She's waiting for me. Elara's lips parted slightly. You're a father? Yeah. She looked like she was seeing him differently now. Still soaking wet, still bleeding, but something shifted in her face. Her shoulders lowered. Her grip on her daughter eased. I want to repay you, she said. Please. Let me take you out to dinner. Or something. That's not necessary. It is to me. He hesitated. You don't have to, I want to. He looked at the twins again. Weston was already picking flowers. Willa was quiet, clinging to her mom now. Still shaken. He glanced down at his soaked jeans, his torn shirt, his empty hands. I'm not exactly dressed for fine dining, he said. I don't care if you show up in pajamas. Just say yes. His lips twitched. All right. One dinner. She smiled. One dinner. The next evening, Ronan stood outside a restaurant that had valet parking and wine bottles in the window that probably cost more than his rent. He almost turned around. Then he saw her. Elara stepped out of a black car wearing a deep blue dress and heels again, but this time, she walked slower. Like she was waiting for him. You clean up nice, she said, smiling. You still owe me dry clothes. He joked, nodding toward his fresh button-up and jeans. I'll send you a closet. She deadpanned, then laughed. Kidding. Kinda. They were seated on the rooftop patio under warm lights, with a view of the city skyline and a bottle of wine already waiting. You didn't have to go all out, he said, glancing around. I wanted to, she replied. You saved my daughter. He studied her for a second. You're not just some regular mom, are you? She looked down at her wine. No, she said quietly. I'm not. He waited. I run a company. Several, actually. I've been on the Forbes list since I was 28. I'm the CEO of Anderson Holdings. He blinked. Wait, you're that Anderson? She nodded, her expression unreadable. So you're a billionaire? Elara leaned forward. Does that change anything? He met her eyes. No. Doesn't change what happened in that river. She smiled then. Really smiled. I usually don't tell people. Men get weird. Or they want something. I don't want anything, he said. Except maybe dessert. She laughed loudly, startling the waiter. God, she said, shaking her head. You're exactly what I needed. He raised an eyebrow. A soaking wet stranger with a bleeding hand. No. A good man. He didn't know what to say to that. So he just looked at her. And she looked at him. And for the first time in a long time, Ronan felt like maybe something good was about to happen to him. Something big. You sure you're not regretting this already? Ronan asked, his eyes scanning the sleek black piano in the corner of the restaurant lounge. You could have picked someone with a dry cleaning bill smaller than your electric car. Elara leaned back in her chair, her fingers brushing the rim of her wine glass. I've had dinners with men who own yachts and can't hold eye contact. You're refreshing. Is that your polite way of saying I'm underqualified? No, she said, her tone softer now. It's my way of saying you're real. Ronan glanced out at the skyline. Most people don't think I belong in places like this. Do you? He turned back to her, one corner of his mouth lifting. I belong wherever good food is served. But fancy tablecloths and wine I can't pronounce? Not really my usual Friday night. You didn't even flinch when they brought out the amuse-bouche. I thought it was a side dish. She grinned and set her glass down. You handled it better than most people I know. Honestly, I wasn't sure you'd show. I wasn't either. What changed your mind? My daughter, he said, surprising himself with the honesty. She told me not to be boring. Elara's brow lifted. How old is she? 8. Has more opinions than a talk show panel. I think I'd like her. She'd interrogate you about your intentions, he said, lowering his voice slightly. She doesn't like surprises. Or people touching her books. I'll bring my own reading list. He laughed, and it echoed louder than he meant it to. The waiter appeared just then with their entrees, hers a delicately plated sea bass, his a thick steak that looked like it required its own security detail. Elara waited until the waiter left before picking up her fork. I'm used to people wanting something, she said after a few bites. A deal. A name drop. A way into something they didn't earn. Ronan studied her. Is that what you expected from me? No. That's why I invited you. He cut into his steak carefully. You always this forward? Only when I almost lose my entire world in one afternoon. He didn't respond right away. Then he said, You looked like you hadn't taken a breath until you saw them. I hadn't. Silence settled for a beat. I had them when I was 35, she said, her voice gentler now. Fertility clinics, surrogacy, the whole thing. I didn't want to wait for the right man who might never show up. Ronan looked at her differently now. So you did it on your own. I thought I could keep them safe if I controlled everything, she admitted. But I took a call. I shouldn't have. I was distracted for 2 minutes. And I was there, he said, as if that filled in the rest. Elara nodded. You were. Ronan leaned back. So what now? You tell me. I'm not the type to chase billionaires. I'm not asking you to. You're asking for more than dinner? Her gaze didn't waver. I'm asking for a second one. He blinked. That's unexpected. Is that a no? He didn't answer immediately. Then he said, I work construction. I drive a pickup with a cracked windshield. I don't know how to pronounce half the things on this menu. And I spend most days in boardrooms with men twice my age who still think I should smile more. I'm not exactly conventional either. You really want to do this? I don't date often, she said. And when I do, it's usually with someone who looks better on paper than in person. You think I look better in person? She laughed softly. I think you don't hide. Ronan rubbed his jaw. That's because I don't have anything to hide. Good, she said. Because I'm tired of secrets. He studied her for a long moment. Then he reached for his glass. All right. I'll do a second dinner. I'll pick the place, she said with a half smile. As long as it has burgers. She raised her glass. Deal. After dinner, they stepped out into the warm night. The city glowed around them, and the air carried the scent of jasmine and distant rain. Her driver waited at the curb, but she lingered beside Ronan. I'm glad you came, she said. Me too. She hesitated, then leaned in and kissed his cheek. Tell your daughter thank you for me. He watched as she climbed into the sleek car, the door closing with a soft click. The driver pulled away, and Ronan stood there for a moment, staring down the street, still tasting the warmth of her goodbye. He walked a few blocks to where his truck was parked between a taco stand and a pawn shop. The contrast didn't bother him, it grounded him. When he got home, his daughter Rosie was curled up on the couch wearing his hoodie and reading a book twice her age. Well? She asked without looking up. Was she weird? No, he said, settling beside her. She was different. Rosie closed her book and looked at him. Like good different or Dad's about to make a mistake different? He chuckled. I don't know yet. Do you like her? He paused. Yeah. I think I do. Is she rich? He raised an eyebrow. What kind of question is that? I heard you on the phone. He gave her a look. Eavesdropping isn't cute. I wasn't eavesdropping. You talk loud. He leaned back, folding his arms behind his head. She's more than rich. But that's not why I like her. Rosie shrugged. You better not start wearing suits. I haven't worn a tie since your mom's funeral. She leaned her head against his shoulder. Good. I like you like this. He kissed the top of her head. Me too, kid. But long after Rosie fell asleep, Ronan sat awake on the couch, staring at the ceiling. Elara's face kept flashing through his mind. The way she looked at her kids. The way she looked at him. She was complicated. Sharp. Brave. And maybe, just maybe, lonely. He didn't know what this was yet. But he knew one thing. He wanted to find out. The diner Elara had picked was a far cry from the rooftop restaurant. No valet, no white tablecloths, no wine list. Just cracked leather booths, laminated menus, and a jukebox that hadn't worked in years. Ronan stepped inside wearing a navy Henley and boots that had seen better days. He spotted her instantly tucked into the corner booth, her hair pulled back in a low braid, no makeup, sleeves pushed up. She looked ordinary. And it didn't suit her. Not because she wasn't beautiful but because she looked like she was trying to disappear. You're early, she said as he slid into the booth across from her. You're in a diner, he replied. Had to see it to believe it. Elara's lips curved slightly. My assistant almost passed out when I told her where I was going. You mean the one who called me yesterday to check if I had a criminal record? She didn't flinch. I don't take chances with people near my kids. You think I'm a risk? I think you're a question mark. And I don't like question marks near my family. Ronan leaned back. Then why ask for another dinner? Because I don't want to make decisions based on fear anymore. A waitress came by and poured coffee into their chipped mugs. Ronan thanked her with a nod, then looked back at Elara. I'm not going to hurt them, he said. Or you. I know. Then why do you look like you're waiting for the floor to drop out? Elara stared at her mug. Because the last time I thought I could trust someone, I lost $20 million and half the board's confidence. He blinked. You dated someone on your board? No. He was a venture partner. Charming, experienced, said all the right things. Until he siphoned funds into a shell company and vanished. You press charges? He fled to a country with no extradition treaty. It was a mess. I fixed it, but the damage was done. Ronan folded his hands on the table. I thought you said you didn't date much. I don't, she said. When you're a woman with power, you're either intimidating or a conquest. Sometimes both. So where do I fall? She looked at him. You're the first man I've met who didn't try to impress me. Not really my style. Exactly. They ordered burgers, both of them, and when the food came, Elara surprised him by devouring hers like someone who hadn't eaten in days. You don't eat like a billionaire, Ronan said. That's because I don't live like one. Not really. You live in a glass house on a hill. I have a housekeeper, but I do my own laundry. I have a driver, but I still renew my own license. I play by the rules because I know people are waiting for me to slip. Ronan nodded slowly. Sounds exhausting. She looked up. It is. He took a bite of his burger, then asked, Why tell me all this? Because I don't want to start something based on pretending. You think this is something? I think it could be. If I don't run. He studied her carefully. What are you afraid of? That I'll like you more than I should. He didn't laugh. He didn't joke. He just held her gaze. Then maybe stop thinking so far ahead, he said. We're eating burgers in a booth. That's all this is. Elara exhaled, a little laugh escaping her. You make things sound simple. They can be, he said. If you let em. When they left the diner, the air had turned cooler. Elara wrapped her arms around herself, and Ronan wordlessly shrugged off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. She stiffened for a second, like she wasn't used to being taken care of, then relaxed into it. My kids liked you, she said as they reached her car. I didn't do much. You made Weston laugh. That's not nothing. He adjusted the collar of the jacket. I like kids. She turned toward him. Would you ever want more? Ronan blinked. That's a heavy question for a parking lot. You strike me as someone who doesn't waste time. He considered it. I think I've got room for more. If it's right. Elara nodded, her expression unreadable. Her driver opened the door, but she didn't get in right away. I want to see where you live, she said. He frowned. My place? Yeah. It's not exactly, I don't care. Ronan hesitated. Then he jerked his head toward his truck. Follow me. The drive was quiet. Elara's car kept pace behind him, sleek and black against the darkened streets. His place was modest 2 bedrooms, slightly crooked front steps, porch light with a flickering bulb. He parked, climbed out, and waited as she stepped from the car, her heels crunching on the gravel. You weren't kidding, she said, looking around. Told you. She followed him inside. The living room was small but clean, with a sagging couch, a stack of books on the coffee table, and a drawing taped to the wall that said, Best Dad Ever, in glitter pen. Elara walked over to it and smiled. Rosie made that, Ronan said, setting his keys on the counter. She has good taste. He watched her take it all in. No marble floors, no curated art, no scent of imported candles. Just a house that felt lived in. You wanted to see it, he said. Here it is. She turned slowly. You live like someone who knows what matters. Not always. But now? He met her eyes. Now I do. She stepped closer. You're not what I expected. I get that a lot. I think that's what I like about you. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached up and brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. She didn't pull away. Their breath mingled in the quiet room, and then without warning, without ceremony, she leaned up and kissed him. It wasn't polished or perfect. It was hesitant at first, then deeper, like they both realized at the same time that this thing between them was real. When they finally pulled apart, she rested her forehead against his. I don't do casual, she whispered. Neither do I, he murmured. She stepped back, eyes searching his. I should go. He nodded. I know. But she didn't move right away. And neither did he. Elara stood on the edge of Ronan's porch 3 days later, her heels clicking softly against the worn wooden boards. This time, she wasn't in a dress or a suit. She wore jeans, sneakers, and a light jacket, her shoulders tense under the fading light of a late spring evening. Ronan opened the door with a quiet look that asked the question for her. She took a breath. I didn't come to talk about us, she said. Not right away. He stepped aside, letting her in without a word. Rosie was at a friend's house for a sleepover, and the silence in the house felt heavier than usual. I wanted to ask you something, Elara continued as she stood in the living room, hands in her pockets. Something I've never asked anyone. Ronan leaned against the wall, arms crossed. All right. I want you to come with me to the gala tomorrow night. He blinked. What kind of gala? The Anderson Foundation's annual fundraiser. It's a big deal. Press, investors, governors, the works. That sounds like the opposite of my scene. I know. That's why I'm asking you. You want me to wear a tux and play arm candy for reporters? I want you to stand by me, she said. Because I'm tired of pretending I'm fine walking into those rooms alone. Ronan studied her. You sure you want to introduce me to your world like that? It's not exactly subtle. I don't want subtle, she said. I want real. He glanced toward the kitchen, then back at her. You trust me with that? I trust you with more than that. He didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, You'll have to help me with the tie. I'll send someone. No, he said. You. For the first time since she arrived, her expression softened. Okay. The ballroom shimmered. Crystal chandeliers bathed the space in golden light, and music drifted from a live quartet station beside a marble fountain. Guests in gowns and tailored tuxedos sipped champagne and moved through the room like a synchronized performance. Ronan stood just inside the entrance, adjusting the stiff collar of his jacket. His tux fit better than expected, thanks to Elara's tailor, but everything else felt foreign. Then he saw her. Elara stood at the top of the staircase, her hair swept back, her gown a deep bronze that gleamed under the lights. She wasn't wearing diamonds or emeralds, just a single thin bracelet and confidence that didn't need embellishment. As she descended, heads turned. Conversations paused. But her eyes didn't leave him. You clean up better than I thought possible, she said once they met. I feel like I'm impersonating a senator. You don't look like one, she replied. You look like someone who belongs next to me. You're sure about that? I'm not in the habit of questioning what I know. A photographer approached. Ms. Anderson, a photo with your guest? Ronan stepped back, but Elara reached for his hand. He's not my guest, she said. He's with me. The flash went off. They moved through the crowd together, Elara leading him with quiet confidence. She introduced him to board members, politicians, and artists, never once apologizing for who he was. Ronan spoke when he had something to say, listened when the conversations turned technical, and didn't pretend to understand the wine list. Halfway through the evening, she guided him to a quieter corner, away from the noise. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded. "More than okay. I've been to this event every year since I was 23, she said. "I've never enjoyed it." "What changed?" "You." He reached for her hand. "This is a lot for me." "I know. But I'd do it again," he said. "If it means standing next to you." Her breath caught slightly, and she looked down at their joined hands. "I had a plan," she said. "To raise my kids alone. To keep my world tight and controlled. That's still what you want?" "No." Ronan leaned in. "Then take the leap." She looked up. "What do you mean?" "Come to the lake house with us next weekend. Me and Rosie. Just us. No staff. No press. Just real life." Elara hesitated. "I've never been good at real life." "You're better at it than you think." She exhaled slowly. "All right. One weekend." He squeezed her hand. "And maybe more, if you don't run screaming." She smiled. "You're not that scary." "Rosie might disagree." "Rosie already asked me if I like Star Wars." "I passed the test." He laughed. "Then you're halfway in." The lake house was small and tucked away beneath whispering pines, with a dock that creaked when you walked across it and windows that fogged up when you brewed coffee. Elara arrived in jeans and a hoodie, her hair in a knot, and no makeup in sight. Rosie handed her a fishing pole that first morning and announced, "We don't do phones here." Elara raised an eyebrow. "Is that a rule?" "It's a life." And somehow, the billionaire adapted. She helped make pancakes. She fell into the lake trying to skip stones. She read aloud from one of Rosie's books, struggling to pronounce the fantasy names. And when the rain rolled in on the second night, they built a fort in the living room and watched old movies under a blanket. Ronan watched her the entire time, not because she was out of place, but because she wasn't. She laughed with her eyes closed. She burned the marshmallows. She fell asleep on his shoulder with Rosie tucked beside her. And in that moment he knew. The fundraiser raised over $8 million. The press speculated about the man beside Elara Anderson, who he was, where he came from, what he meant to her. But she didn't comment. She didn't need to. 2 weeks later, Ronan walked into his kitchen and found Elara pouring cereal for Rosie while wearing one of his flannel shirts. "I thought you had a board meeting," he said. "I moved it." He blinked. "Why?" "Because I want to be here." She crossed the room, took his hand, and pressed something into his palm. "A key?" "What's this?" "My house." "Our house. If you want it." He looked down at it, then back at her. "I don't need a mansion." "I know. But I don't want you to have to choose between your life and mine." "I'm not." "Good." Rosie wandered in, rubbing her eyes. "Are you guys going to kiss again?" Ronan chuckled. "Maybe." Elara bent down. "Only if you approve." Rosie squinted at them. "Do I get to keep my room?" "You get to." "Then I guess you can kiss." Elara stood, and Ronan pulled her close. "Are you sure?" he asked softly. "I've never been more." And when their lips met, it wasn't about rescuing each other anymore. It was about choosing each other. Every single day after. The smell of paint lingered in the air as Ronan stepped into the sunlit guest room that had very recently become Rosie's new sanctuary. She sat cross-legged on the floor, organizing a stack of hardcover books into color-coded piles. Elara knelt beside her, holding a small velvet pouch and listening intently as Rosie explained the difference between fantasy and sci-fi. "You're not putting the dragon books with the robot books, right?" Rosie asked, peering up with a deep seriousness that made Ronan grin. "Absolutely not," Elara replied, her voice light. "There's a strict division of genres happening here." "I like her," Rosie said, not looking up. Ronan leaned against the doorframe. That makes two of us. Elara glanced over her shoulder at him, and something subtle passed between them, an unspoken understanding that had grown in the quiet spaces between chaos, trust, and time. Later that night, once Rosie had fallen asleep beneath a quilt Elara had ordered from a local artisan, and the house had gone still, Ronan found her in the kitchen, barefoot, sipping tea by the sink. The light above her cast a golden glow over her features, softening the sharp edges of her usual composure. "I didn't think I'd ever want to share my house," she said, not turning around. "You didn't just share it," Ronan replied. "You gave it a heartbeat." She looked over at him, mug resting against her lips. "I'm not used to this kind of quiet," she said. "The kind that doesn't feel empty." "That's good," he said, walking toward her. "Because it's not going anywhere." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. She watched him curiously as he handed it to her. "What is this?" "I filed to dissolve my business," he said. "I handed the crew over to my foreman. He's more than ready." Elara's eyes widened slightly as she unfolded the form. "You're leaving construction?" "I'm building something else now," he said, his voice low but steady. "Something that doesn't involve pouring concrete at 5 in the morning. Something that has room for you and Rosie and weekends that aren't spent on rooftops." She stared at the paper for a long moment, then looked up at him. "You didn't have to do that for me." "I didn't. I did it for us." He leaned closer, brushing his knuckles along her jaw. "You changed what I wanted. That's not something I take lightly. I don't know what to say." "Say you're staying." "I'm already here." They didn't kiss right away. Instead, she set her mug down and wrapped her arms around him, resting her head against his chest. He held her tightly, as if grounding the moment in something permanent. The next morning, Willa and Weston arrived with their nanny in tow, backpacks slung over their tiny shoulders and stories ready to spill from their mouths. Rosie pulled them into the backyard, already strategizing the day's adventure, and Ronan watched from the back porch with a cup of coffee in hand. Elara came out beside him, her sunglasses perched on her head, hair blowing slightly in the breeze. "They've been asking about you every day," she said. "Willa told her teacher you were a river superhero." He chuckled. "I've been called worse. I think they're finally starting to believe this is real. They're not the only ones." She turned to face him. "I used to think love was a risk I couldn't afford. And now? Now it feels like the only thing worth investing in." He took her hand as the kids' laughter echoed through the yard. "Then let's go all in." They didn't need a wedding planned by a celebrity coordinator or a photo spread in a glossy magazine. What they had was rooted in something stronger: respect, honesty, and a love that had bloomed not in perfection, but in the mess and the middle of real life. 6 months later, they stood in the backyard beneath strings of lights and the scent of rosemary and lemon cake. Rosie walked ahead of Elara, holding a bouquet of wildflowers with Willa and Weston giggling behind her. Ronan waited beneath a handmade arbor, his navy suit tailored but simple. Elara wore a soft ivory dress that trailed just above the grass. No veil. No diamonds. Just her, authentic and radiant, as she walked toward the only man who ever saw her for exactly who she was. When she reached him, she didn't speak right away. Neither did he. Then she said, "You're my home." And he said, "You've always been my future." They exchanged vows with no cameras, no press, no spectacle, just whispered promises and tears that didn't need to be hidden. Rosie read from a poem she wrote herself. Weston dropped a ring. Willa handed it back with a curtsy. And when the sun dipped below the trees, they danced barefoot on the grass while music drifted from a record player someone had dusted off just for the occasion. Later, when the stars were out and the kids had finally fallen asleep inside the house, Elara rested her head on Ronan's shoulder as they lay side by side on a blanket, looking up at the sky. "I didn't think I could have this," she whispered. "You didn't have to think it," he replied. "You just had to choose it." "I did." He turned his head, brushing her temple with his lips. And I'll never stop choosing you. In the quiet that followed, with the world hushed around them and the scent of lavender on the breeze, they listened to the soft symphony of a life they built together, not perfect, but undeniably theirs. And it was enough. More than enough.